Well, welcome back. Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Thanks very much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Wednesday, September 13th. It is 7 a.m. on the East Coast, and time for the hot topic of the hour. Bombshell new allegations from inside the CIA. A senior-level official telling Congress that the agency allegedly tried to pay investigators to change their position on the origins of COVID-19. The chairman of two House committees sending a letter to CIA Director William Burns, charging that at the end of the agency's probe, 6 of 7 investigators believe that COVID originated from a lab in Wuhan, China. However, those 6 members would then change their opinion after they were given a, quote, significant monetary incentive. The CIA is denying these allegations. A spokesperson says that the agency did not pay analysts to reach specific conclusions. Lee, we knew from the get-go that this was likely from a Wuhan lab. Tom Cotton, the senator, told us in March of 2020. Your thoughts on this?
Yeah, but not only did Senator Cotton say it, and we knew it, but we were getting criticized and blasted and censored for promoting it. Now, what's interesting in trying to parse the words of the CIA denial, they're saying that the analysts didn't receive money. But what's being reported of the whistleblower is that they were offered a monetary incentive. So the question is, was there money offered to some entity that these analysts were associated with? What's the right thing to do? For members of Congress to ask these questions, to investigate, and to provide the truth to the American public. But the CIA providing their statement just makes me actually ask a couple of more questions. I think that on top of Fauci being conflicted and funding Wuhan lab and people in power who were worried about their own embarrassment if all the facts came out, on top of it, we have to remember there was also a presidential election coming up and a battle for power in November of 2020, and they wanted everyone to blame as much as possible on Donald Trump. And they were going out of their way to hold the water for China, because if you're blaming China, that's less blame for Donald Trump. And we're still here years later trying to get to the bottom of parsing it all out. And I don't think...
Actually, not only have we not gotten to the bottom, unfortunately, the bottom is getting even deeper.
That's right.
And the bottom is called the swamp.
Who does the CIA work for? I mean, why would the CIA go against the American people if it is likely that this emerged from a Wuhan lab? Wouldn't the CIA, like everybody else and any other agency, want to get to the truth?
Unless there were someone named Dr. Fauci who at the time
was being paid by China.
Yep, and using that very Wuhan lab to actually conduct other investigations. And so if you blame the Wuhan lab, then there's a dotted line back to Dr. Fauci, which goes a dotted line back to one Joe Biden, and you say, nope, we can't have this. So we need to shut this down. We can't have any dotted lines. Get the Wuhan lab out of it. Keep Dr. Fauci clean and on his pedestal.
You know, this is why Americans do not trust the government and the institutions like the FBI and the CIA, Krysia, because we keep finding out more about this censorship program that has been underway for years, since Donald Trump came down the escalator to say he was running for president, the whole Russia collusion lie, and the COVID-19 outbreak.
And it never ends, and we still haven't gotten to the bottom of it. With Dr. Fauci, he has not been held accountable at all.
None of them have been.
None of them have been. He directly funded the NIH research with EcoHealth Alliance and Peter Daszak at the helm. And it's a complete cover-up. Even with the lab leak theory, we weren't allowed to say that. We weren't allowed to talk about gain-of-function research or even the medications that were helping in terms of stopping the spread of COVID and really helping people get back to health. So in this case, for sure, it tracks with exactly what we've been seeing. I hope we can, this whistleblower won't be in harm's way for coming out and speaking up, because that's also been part of this administration, retaliation against whistleblowers.
And John Brennan was running the CIA at the time of the Russia collusion lie, Lee. I mean, what should we think about the CIA?
51 intelligence officers all saying that the Hunter Biden laptop was, fake news, Russian
right before a
disinformation.
Presidential election.
And then that is used by media to amplify, and then government policies then using the media reports and And then and then you have social media ending up censoring, New York Post and others who are trying to get the good news out right before an election. There's all this battle of whether or not there was, was the election rigged? This type of rhetoric that gets used. But you know what? If you look at the facts regarding the 51 intelligence officers and what happened with the censorship, I mean, that is not kosher in any presidential election in any year, regardless of who the parties are. And the last thing I would add, as far as, you mentioned the FBI, you mentioned the CIA, whoever is the next president, reminder to start your transition plan early, get the right people in office on day one, be able to sign executive orders on day one, because you can't end up with these career buried long-term left-wing civil servants, they're called, who have tremendous amount of power, and they're implementing their own agenda and circumventing and undercutting the elected president of the United States.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but you also have to look at the media, the mainstream media. What's wrong with the media for going along with all of these narratives and not protecting the American people?
Well,
this happens over and over again. They won't cover anything about Hunter Biden potential crimes. They won't admit that Russia collusion was a completely made-up story from one political campaign trying to take down another.
But it's a team. And the team supports its team members. The Democrat Party and the mainstream media are on the same team. They realized that long ago. And by the way, look at what happens in Hollywood. That's another team member with a dotted line, as we discussed. And that's exactly the message of Trump, that the swamp is alive.
And they want to sell their goods to China.
Yes,
so they
do.
They want to sell to 1.4 billion people. No worry about national security
and let's send yet another cabinet official. There have been 3, maybe there'll be a 4th. Send him over to China just to make good.
And they had the nerve to feed her mushrooms that were
Janet
psychedelic,
Yellen.
hallucinogenics.
Crazy. Insulting.